Hello, BNI members. Welcome to week 7 of our BNI Summer Games contest. This week, our mantra comes from Tony Robbins, which says, if you do what you've always done, you will get what you've always gotten. And this is very true in BNI. It kind of follows around the definition of insanity, right? Which is people doing the same thing over and over again, yet expecting different results. It's time, as you've started picking up your activity during the games, hopefully you've done some training in the BNI University. You've got a couple weeks left to complete that Member Success Program training. But it's time to really think about the results you've gotten from your BNI membership recently. You know, as we're now in August, we're coming up soon. We're going to be in the fourth quarter of the year. I'd be looking back on 2018, maybe even through 2017, and start saying, okay, what have I gotten from the results that what are the results from the activities I've done? Are they on par with what I would want or I expected from my membership? And if the answer is no, then we got to look at what do we change? Because if we just keep doing what we've always done, the results aren't going to be very much different. Now, in BNI, the longer you're in your chapter with your members, the more results will naturally come, just because the deeper the relationships, people get different understandings. But if you're really looking to amplify the results you're getting from BNI, you need to look at the approach you're taking. And that's in every aspect. Are you changing it enough? Or do you have the right strategy in place? Maybe you've been trying to train people on how to find something very, very difficult and you need to make it simpler. Maybe the way you're training them is very difficult for them to implement, right? Maybe we're asking not just necessarily for difficult referrals, but we're not training them properly on how to identify them, or we're not training them properly on what to say when they do have those opportunities. I made this mistake as a member. For many of you that know my background, when I sold life insurance as a member, I used to say a good referral for me is somebody who's getting married. So who do you know that's recently married? And then I would sell life insurance for the rest of the minute. I never taught people how to actually have a conversation around life insurance. So essentially I was asking people like, hey, when you go to that wedding and you're going through the receiving line, say congratulations, how's your life insurance? And then I was wondering why it never happened, right? What I needed to change, one of the many things I needed to change, I made a lot of mistakes, but one of the things was I needed to train people how to bring it up in a comfortable way, right? I had to train people like, hey, when somebody tells you they're engaged and they're going to get married, I would paint the picture, tell them, think about that conversation. And when you're asking them where the honeymoon's going to be and all that fun stuff, tell them in that conversation how important it was for you to meet with somebody after you got married to make sure everything was lined up and protected, and that you have somebody you would love for them to meet when they get back from their honeymoon. I was often setting up my referrals months ahead of time. But I did that because I realized that was something people could do in a natural conversation. They could bring the concept up. They can say, hey, I've got somebody I want you to meet. We'll do it after you get married. There was no pressure, but it opened the door. That was far more effective than trying to rely on my members to figure it out. Okay, so that was something I had to learn. I had to practice. I had to test a couple different things, see what was sticking. This is where one-to-ones really became important to me, because I had to ask people, what's difficult about finding me referrals? Because if they don't tell me, I can assume what the challenge is. I can assume what the problem is, but maybe I don't really know what the problem is, and thus I can't fix it. So I would ask them, what's been difficult, what's the struggle, so that I can train them on how to get over those things easier. So I had to constantly be looking at the tactics, my strategy that I was implementing in BNI. BNI is not about just showing up. Now, showing up's a key part to the game. Obviously, consistency is a key part to the game. Time is a key part to the game. You got to invest the time. However, clear strategy on how to utilize all those things. How do you become efficient and effective when you are at the meeting? How do you become more effective with the time you are investing? That takes some time to think about, research, learn about, try new things, track your results. So the key for this week, I would say, is look back. If you're not on par with where you expected to be, look back at what you've done or you haven't done. Be brutally honest with yourself. Don't just say, well, I've given BNI a try. Have you really? Have you put in everything that you think you could put into that membership for you? This doesn't impact anybody else but you. And if you haven't, or even if you have and it's not working, ask yourself why and do some research. Schedule some one-to-ones. See where the challenge has been. Start thinking about what you've been training your members. How can you make that better for you? Can you do more one-to-ones? Can you complete some more training? With BNIU, there's a ton of opportunities on there to start learning through podcasts and trainings different ideas, different strategies, different tactics. Don't just keep going to BNI every single week, repeating yourself over and over every single week, and just sit back and wonder why you're not getting results. I'll give you one last funny story on this. I had a member once who told me BNI doesn't work. And I said, why is that? And he said, for the last 5 months, I've gone to my chapter meeting and I have done the exact same weekly presentation asking for the same person every single week, and I've never got them. BNI doesn't work. And I said, no, it's not BNI's problem. Where do you think the problem might be? And it's the fact that maybe nobody knows that person. Maybe you need to move on. Maybe you need to ask for somebody like them. Maybe you need to train your members on how to find different people. Going in every single week for 5 months and asking for the same referral and then getting mad when you don't get the results is a little bit on that member, not realizing they needed to change their tactic a little bit earlier. They were, by definition, insane, right? Doing the same thing over and over, yet expecting different results. So keep this week's mantra in mind as you go through and start thinking about your results and start thinking about how you're going to plan for this fall, which will produce early next year's results. Hopefully your results this fall are coming from the activities you're doing now. But how are you going to really change that strategy or make subtle tweaks to it to get even better results? As always, if you have questions on that, feel free to reach out to our amazing support team. I know our ambassadors and our director consultants and even our managing directors are open to doing some one-to-ones with members, some coaching time on what you might want to consider looking at, what you might want to consider changing to get those results that you're really looking for. Wish you guys the best of luck. Have a fantastic day.